So I want to talk to you a little bit and help you to understand who we are as black people, where we came from, and to ultimately determine a better understanding of where we're going. Of course, understanding where we're going is going to, of course, be the result of an individual choice, but it's imperative to understand that it starts with the man. The man is the leader of the basic unit of society, which is the family. Everything that we as a community, as a people, are able to accomplish is based on the strength of the family, and ultimately based on the strength of the man to be faithful, to be loving and caring and kind to his wife, and to have children with her, and to raise them in a manner that they have values and character, and that they are willing to obey their parents and become law-abiding citizens. And in the process of helping families to be strong and to develop families that have a strong foundation, I think it's important to have a knowledge of self and where we've come from. History is important. I don't think that most people would start watching a movie in the middle of the movie. They would want to see it from the beginning to the end, because it helps to put things in context. Some of the things that we experience now may not make sense. Some of the events and situations that we find ourselves in may not make sense unless we understand the history and where we've come from. We come from a race of kings. In Egypt, in Africa, we were kings. We are the people who originated in Africa. When God created Adam from the dirt, this same dirt that was in the Garden of Eden, and in that same vicinity, that dirt was able to produce fruit and vegetables, and there were trees growing, and there's only one complexion of dirt that's able to do that, and there's one man on the earth that has that type of complexion. And so we come from Africa, the birthplace of humanity, and all of humanity is a part of our heritage, and it begins with black people in black Africa. And so our heritage is rich, our heritage is strong, our heritage is powerful, and we eventually became pharaohs and kings, and that history was taken away from us. But why was it taken away? Who took it away? And why did he take it away? And with that knowledge, what would it do? How would it impact us as a people? Well, I think that some of those answers are clear, and some of the reasons, there are many reasons, but what I want to talk about right now is an aspect of our history that many people like to overlook and deny, and that is slavery. And I think it's important for us to understand slavery because it is a part of our history that explains a certain condition that exists in America today, which is sometimes referred to as post-traumatic slavery disorder. There are certain dynamics within the black family that are directly born from being in slavery, and sometimes when we experience certain thoughts or emotions or feelings, being able to understand where those thoughts and feelings and emotions and behavior are coming from, I think is a part of understanding the things that we as a people have been through. Now, of course, I was not a slave, I was not in slavery, but the aftermath of slavery has not really been studied on a large scale. And I think that if it were studied on a large scale, then we would find many things that would give reason to many of the problems that black people face today. So here we go. Now, in slavery, there were no bed, and this is a quote from, let's see, this is Frederick Douglass, from the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, 1845. There were no beds given to the slaves unless one coarse blanket be considered such, and none but the men and women had these. They find less difficulty from the want of beds than from the want of time to sleep. For when their day's work in the fields is done, most of them having their washing, mending, and cooking to do, and having few or none of the ordinary facilities for doing either of these, very many of their sleeping hours are consumed in preparing for the field and coming day. And when this is done, old and young, male and female, married and single, drop down side by side on one common bed, the cold, damp floor, each covering himself or herself with their miserable blankets, and here they sleep till they are summoned to the field by the driver's horn. Can you imagine working from sunup to sundown every day without any hope of rest? Can you imagine being beaten if you didn't do as you were told? Can you imagine being talked to and about as if you were less than a dog? Can you imagine having to beat the hell out of your little girl when she disobeyed you in the slightest command, just so the master didn't beat her to death if she disobeyed him? Not to mention having your wife and kids ripped from your arms as you were sent to be another man's slave. Slavery was a hellish existence. What happened to our ancestors was one of the world's greatest crimes. It was more than a sin. It was an abomination. The white man all but completely destroyed our ancestors through slavery. However, it's important to point out that slavery was part of most major ancient societies. In fact, there were white slaves once upon a time. History teaches us that white slaves got to be difficult to keep because they could run away and blend in. The black man who ran away had to live in constant fear with pretty much nowhere to hide. Also, white slaves were accustomed to being treated with certain rights. It was easier for the white man to have a black man as a slave for many practical reasons. We were ripped from our culture, our religion, our country, and made to live in hell. We were raped physically and psychologically on a daily basis. The aftermath of the torture can still be felt today. Have you ever been called black in a demonizing way? Have you or someone you know ever been beaten as a child for no good reason? Do you change your behavior around white people? If you pretty much answer yes to any of these questions, you might suffer from post-traumatic slavery disorder. Today we hear words like discrimination and racism, and we want to avoid it like it's some sort of taboo. America basically has made progress, but we still have a lot of progress to make. Any black man in America that thinks the white community generally sees him as an equal is probably mistaken. I want to give you insight into the thinking of white America and how it has changed somewhat and evolved. This is something that most white Americans would probably want you not to know, or either want us to forget. But history is important because it helps us to measure where we're going. This is basically a quote that was, let's see, this was a quote from the Los Angeles Times on July 5th, 1910. It was after Jack Johnson had become the heavyweight champion of the world. He was the first black heavyweight champion of the world. This was called A Word to the Black Man. Listen to this. Do not swell your chest too much. Do not boast too loudly. Do not be puffed up. Let not your ambition be inordinate or take a wrong direction. Remember, you have done nothing at all. You are just the same member of society you were last week. You are on no higher plane, deserve no new consideration, and will get none. And so, why was the knowledge taken from us to keep us down? Who took it from us? The white man. Why did he take it from us? Out of fear. What did he fear? He feared that we would become greater than him. Now, what we have to understand is that this isn't just an innate evil of the white man in America. This is something that is within each member of the human race, which there is only one race, and that is the human race. It just so happens that society has categorized race according to the complexion of one's skin. And for a proper understanding of the context of what we're talking about, you'll hear me refer to white and black. The Bible teaches us that the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. And the evil to try to take away the knowledge of ourselves and to keep us from our own history is still in place today. And we see this in our public school system, in our public education system, with only 1 month being attributed to black history, where black history should be taught year-round. So what we need to do as a people, both black and white, as a human race, is to dispel the fear and to be able to honestly look on the past so that we understand it, because that which was is until it's understood and healed.